Okay, Ole Humphrey, blank sheet of paper. This is the deep end. We're going to do this, and we're going to do two things that are a hair more festive. But are we ready? All right, I'm going to give you categories. You're going to write down if you have ever been shamed in this category. Okay? The first category is physical klutziness. If you have ever been made to feel ashamed about your physical klutziness, it becomes very difficult to become a performing artist. Even if it happens on the baseball field, it makes it hard to take center stage as an actor. So have you ever been shamed around physical klutziness?
I'm always amazed at how little the teenagers that I've worked with as a counselor know about their own physical prowess. It's amazing. Or who they're going to be when they're 25 physically. It's
all right,
amazing.
Second category. I'm sorry, I'm just going to drive like pedal to the metal for a little bit, you guys. Okay, second category. Have you ever been shamed around your musical abilities? Write down the name of who did it to you. Okay? Daunting information. Well, you'll never play again. You shouldn't play at all. I used to be bawled out all the time because I had a terrible soprano voice. I have a beautiful alto with a vibrato. They never told me that. Okay? Musical abilities. Have you ever been shamed around your musical abilities?
And this shaming can be very, very subtle. I'm playing piano scales, and a lover says, "Aren't you supposed to just hit one note at a time?" Suddenly I'm not playing piano scales daily anymore, and I don't really connect the two. So it can be very subtle.
Why don't you let your brother get his practice time in? Okay?
How many people had a designated artistic sibling? Someone else who was the true artist in the family. Okay.
One of the things that happens is if the first kid is musical and they get a piano, when the second kid comes along, they don't usually buy a second piano. So the second kid is encouraged to be a painter, and by the third kid it's encouraged to be a writer, and they just keep dividing out. We have mythology. One of the dirty words we use for artists is dilettante. Instead of accepting that creativity is hydra-headed and that a lot of us paint well, draw well, sing well, do a whole lot of things very well, we instead, how it works is you have 5 things that you want to do and you can't make up your mind, so you yell at yourself for being a dilettante and you don't do any of them, right? Because if you should be working on your novel, but you haven't worked on your painting, but you should be working on your acting, you know how it goes. Once you start to give yourself permission to play at any and all of them, you begin to move forward according to where your interest of the day lies. Okay, how many of you have ever been shamed around your drama abilities? This may mean simply the size of your personality. How many of you have been told things like children should be seen and not heard? Next category, how many of you have ever been shamed around your visual talents?
Anybody done Betty Edwards' drawing from the right side of the brain? How many people have seen that? What she did so wonderfully is show us that at about 11, right, when our creative mind gets, our critical skills get far suddenly ahead of our physical skills, that's when we usually stop drawing. That's why if I ask you to draw right now your childhood landscape, that little thing with the house and the smoke coming out of the chimney, you would probably be able to draw it exactly as you last had when you were 12 or whenever you last did it. Because you remember that. And what happens at that time is that you get a big cognitive jump, and so the little house is looked at as just a little house, and without any more skills training, you quit.
The truth is I hate teaching with him. He knows all this stuff. Okay, how many of you have ever been shamed around your dancing or physical movement abilities? Dance movement. How many of you have ever been shamed around your spatial abilities. So, you know, you're a terrible potter. You arrange the room the wrong way. The chi is always rotten in your houses. I have a theory that the reason the Bodhi tree feels the way it does is it has bad chi. But
I'd like to thank the Bodhi tree for all of the books they've sold, and thank you,
but
Stan.
it does
Thank
have
you, Phil.
something peculiar going on there. How many of you have ever been shamed around your public speaking abilities? Public speaking abilities. Is that a little joke, John? Were you the one that... Who said, what's that? When I said public speaking abilities, that was great. I thought it was funny. All right.
Yes.
Right. Although some of us have managed to do it ourselves. Okay, is that a sufficiently excruciating list? What did I leave off? Sex is in all of
Have you ever
them.
been shamed about your sexual...
Writing abilities. Whoops. How many of you have ever been... Could I ask a question? How many of you have ever been accused of plagiarizing anything? Could we just do a show of hands? All right, about almost 50% of us have been accused of plagiarizing. Now let's ask the question a little differently. How many of us have ever had somebody else take credit for a piece of work that was ours? Okay, look at this. How many of us have ever been accused of plagiarizing in this way? We've done a really good piece of work, and then someone has said, John, this is marvelous. Did your father help you with this? Your brother, your mother, your sister? Could we have the show of hands on that? Okay, do you understand that when you're a talented little bun and you do a piece of work and it's greeted by, you stole it? Do you know how hard it makes it for you to go ahead and be a writer? The part of you that creates is always a talented little bun. And if you don't believe me, think about how you feel when you get a rejection letter. Your intellect says, this is only the opinion of one person. They only own one gallery. There are many other people you can talk to. Why, right here in Venice, there are at least another 16 galleries where you can go over and talk to them about your work. Meanwhile, the part of you that creates is thinking, I could build a nuclear bomb. I could. I know exactly. Plastiques are possible. Suicide's okay. Maybe I could just drink that blue stuff. You know? So that's the 7-year-old. So remember that our intellectual may intercept, but doesn't really disarm the pain that's done to the little kid. Okay, let's move forward to the other lists. Will you label those shames? Shames. The question was, would being corrected for saying naughty words make it difficult for you to go on to be a public speaker? And I said the answer to that is yes.
Okay, number from 1 to 20. I'm going to run through some exercises. It's on page 73 of the book. It's called Detective Work. 1. My favorite childhood toy was... So you want to put a cue word, toy. My favorite childhood game was... 3. The best movie I ever saw as a kid. I know I'm going quickly. The best movie I ever saw as a kid was... 4. I don't do it much, but I enjoy... 10. That's trick roping. 5, if I could lighten up a little, I'd let myself... 6, if it weren't too late, I'd... 7, my favorite musical instrument is... 8, the amount of money I spend on treating myself to entertainment each month is... not enough. 9, if I weren't so stingy with my artist, I would... 10, taking time out for myself is... blank. 11, I'm afraid that if I start dreaming... 12, I secretly enjoy reading... nothing. 13, if I'd had a perfect childhood, I'd have grown up to be... 14, if it didn't sound so crazy, I'd write or make a... If it didn't sound so crazy, I'd write or make or do what? "15, my parents think artists are... 16, my God thinks artists are... 17, what makes me feel weird about this course is... 18, learning to trust myself is... 19, my most cheer-me-up music is... 20, my favorite way to dress is... I would like you to remember when you do your artist states that the whole emphasis is supposed to be fun. You don't necessarily have to go to the opera if you don't even like Italian.
Blank sheet of paper. The first category is... label this sheet filling the form.
Filling the form.
The first category is the bathroom you usually use. Please list 3 changes you could make in the bathroom you usually use that would cheer you up. You can put in a skylight, you can add a television, you can put in a fish tank, you can paint the windowsill.
Take the hair off the floor.
You can take the hair off the floor. You can put little teeny star twinkles all over the ceiling.
Clean the mirror.
All right, the second category is clothing from the shoulders to the crown of your head. 3 changes you can make in your clothing from the shoulders to the crown of your head that would cheer you up.
Three changes in your car. Oh, come on. 3 changes in your car. Car. Get one. Fill it with gas. Wax it. You know. That's really how you please a man over 40, by the way, is that you get him a new set of radial tires.
All right, shoes. 3 changes you could make in your shoes that would cheer you up.
Three changes in your kitchen.
Don't worry, you can steal from each other when you get in the clusters.
Take all the pictures of dead relatives off the refrigerator. There's some 3 changes in the area in which you do your work.
I hung Christmas tree ornaments all around my writing desk. It was great. It was July. Please list 3 changes you could make in the way you conduct your friendships that would cheer you up.
Never call that person again.
Right, fire Emma. Please list 3 changes you could make in your spiritual practice that would cheer you up. The guy who is, I think of as the most spiritually adroit guy in Taos, divides his time between being on the board of the co-op, playing rigorous softball, waiting tables, making music, and painting. And this guy is like so well balanced. It's like being around a magician. It's just, he's devised this amazing life that no one else would want. Please list 3 changes that you could make in the room you sleep in that would cheer you up. Add a lover.
Subtract a lover.
Subtract a lover.
List of 20 things, 1 through 20. It's so much work. Just 20 things you like to do. What are they? No, you don't have to do them all tomorrow. 20 things you like to do. That you've done, that you would like to do, that looks interesting, however that defines. That you did once and haven't done in 10 years. Just
but
20
mainly
things.
20 things you know you like to do. Roller skating, baking cherry pies, tantric sex, trick roping.
Trick roping? Trick roping. Chick roping? Someone was hearing a chick roping? That's funny. Great.
Also, if you only get 6 things on some of these lists, that's fine. You can steal from each other, A, and B, it's 6 things you didn't have before. Watch the way your rebel and your tyrant will duke it out. Your rebel will be, I'm not writing another one of these damn lists. Your tyrant will be, you are writing another one of these lists right now. Get used to the fact that you have both of those poles in your personality and negotiate with them a little bit so they don't sabotage you so much. Okay, blank sheet of paper. I call this game Big Self, Little Self. You might want to call it cinema self. Most of us have a self that is sort of the self we are living with right now, our current size self. We're reasonably comfortable with this size self. We'd like it to be slightly larger or more expansive. And then we take the next risk, and then we want it to be slightly larger and more expansive. And what's fun to do is to consciously fool around with big self, little self. So here's what I would like to ask you to do. Another way to say this would be like ideal self. Okay? Your ideal self. You know, my ideal self is about either 3 inches smaller, that would be dramatic, or 3 inches taller, that will be dramatic. With Bernadette Peters' hair, you know, that would be more fun. I mean, you know what I'm saying. You get the drift. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a lot of different categories, and what car does your ideal self drive? You're allowed to have more than one. Okay? Quickly now. What car does your ideal self drive? Have you ever done this?
4-seater Aston Martin.
65 Chevy pickup. This is why we got divorced.
And she kept my pickup.
It was Louise, and it was my pickup. You got
she got the ranch, I got the computer.
You got the computer. All right. This is true, you guys. Okay. What is your ideal self's favorite item of totem clothing? You know, like in a Robert Redford movie, how he would have some horrible old corduroy jacket with leather patches that he would wear fishing, right? So, what is your ideal self's favorite item of totem clothing? You know, and it can be something naughty, you know, that's politically incorrect. You know, you can happen to have that old sable that you're not allowed to wear anymore, right? Loved on, you know, cherished and worn to threadbare.
When you think of your big self, this is how they're dressed.
Right? That's right.
Big self.
For example, my ideal self has none. I don't have any of these yet. I just bought a pair, and I think my kid took them to college. Carol Lombard tweed trousers, real baggy ones, and heavy satin 1930s shirts and pajamas like from the 20th Century Limited, you know, from that movie. Okay, you get the drift. Okay, what's your ideal self's favorite corner of the house, and what's in it? Where does your ideal self hide out, and what are the toys? Like, does your ideal self have a globe next to the reading lamp, have a fish tank?
Or an electric guitar.
An electric guitar. Ideal self.
An easel.
The hideout corner. What's your ideal self's relationship to animals?
You have a whole ranch full of horses, 4 dogs, or cats, or none. Or exotic tropical fish of all colors. Sounds fun, doesn't it?
Who do you cast? Who do you cast?
As you.
Who is cast as you? It's a movie. Who do you cast to play the role of you? You can cast several people. No, they don't have to be alive. They can be whoever you want. Yes?
Absolutely.
So
Older versions of.
who do you cast? Who's fun to cast? Oh, come on. This is like lighten up, you guys. Please list 3 places that your ideal self has visited that you haven't gone to yet, but your ideal self has had a very good time at. Let's say by the time you're 70, your ideal self has gone to these 3 places. Where did your ideal self choose to go? Come on. You can make your own rules here a little bit. You can have 1 where you've already been, 9 or 10 where you haven't gone yet. What languages does ideal self speak that you don't speak yet? This is a game. We're not even saying you have to do the work of learning them. Your ideal self is throwing a dinner party. Please list the 5 people your ideal self would consider the most fun to have at dinner. It can be whatever you want. Famous, alive, dead. The point is that tonight you had an experience with other artists. You might just want to find 3 other people or 4 other people and go through the book doing the tasks collectively. You meet once a week, you do the tasks in that week's chapter, you share the results. That's plenty good enough.
This concludes Discovering and Recovering Your Creative Self.